In the 1980s, I worked on a project with Steven Spielberg, and they asked me to have a fly walk through ink and leave fly footprints. I didn't know how to do it, so I experimented and I figured out how to make a fly walk through ink and leave fly footprints. This beetle is in the genus Eleoides, the family Tenebrionidae. It's commonly known as a stink bug, and it's really a great walker. I use a water-based paint that's non-toxic, and I apply it to the ends of their legs, called the tarsi. When I apply it to the paper, you can see its footprints. It will drag its feet, and then as it walks along, the paint will diminish. Before I put him down on a wet piece of paper, I make sure that he has a good drink so that he's not going to take up any water with pigment in it. Now I'm going to guide him over to that center spot. I've found it fascinating to watch insects walk, how they can walk across ceilings and glass and sand and water. And I noticed different patterns. I started to notice that sometimes they would drag their feet. Sometimes insects would hop, skip, and jump. Now you normally wouldn't notice this, but by putting pigment on their feet, it opens up a whole new world of walking. It leaves footprints that remain, and you can see the remnants of that movement. I sometimes turn the paper, causing the insects to create curves and circles. Hissing cockroaches are very strong insects. I hold them in order not to harm them, and I need to apply the paint in a delicate manner. I work with a number of different insects. Each insect is like working with a different brush. There are a number of variables which include the temperature, the time of day, the lighting conditions, which influence how you're going to work. I really don't have a favorite, but I do like the variation of working with a large variety of insects. I studied insect behavior in school, and I used that knowledge in the film industry. I've worked on 75 feature films specializing in insects doing tricks. In the process of doing those tricks, I learned a lot of how to control and manipulate insects. As the beetle crawls, most of the pigment will come off. Then I place him on the side, and I use a squirt bottle to squirt off any excess pigment. When that's complete, I then slowly take him and place him on a wet paper towel, and I look for residual pigment. I have to take good care of him because he's an artist after all. The art that I do requires a knowledge of both science and art. I use my knowledge of insect behavior to control the insects as brushes. I used my knowledge as an artist to choose the colors, the placement, the texture, and design the art that I want to create. So I can manipulate the insect and the pigments to create a piece of unique art. I started the beetles from the same spot, and by shifting the paper over, I was able to get tracks at different angles. This piece was done by darkling beetles, and I initially did it in black and then went over it in white. I call it goldfish. This type of abstract lends itself to seeing many different images. I did a few things with this. The hissing cockroach was orienting in one direction, and I spun the paper around, creating the spiral. And since the hissing cockroach drags its abdomen, I put multiple colors on the abdomen on the underneath side, and as it walks along, it mixes the colors. I put pigments on the abdomen, the feet, and the wingtips. It made the representation of an eye as it turned. I work with a variety of insects. I don't really have a favorite, but working with a variety of insects gives you the opportunity, like working with a variety of brushes. Each insect has its own unique pattern of foot movement, and this is dependent on the light conditions, the temperature, the condition of the substrate, how wet or dry it is. And so by using a combination of insects and a combination of techniques, the number of possibilities is endless.